Welcome to Sex Help for Smart People. I'm Dr. Laura Jurgens. I'm here to help you have better sex, intimacy, and relationships. So let's get at it. Welcome, everyone. This is episode 59, and I am really excited today to share with you a conversation I had with some current clients. I am calling this the wisdom from the middle because I really think there's some special insights when you're on the path, right? When you're on the journey that we don't always remember our perspective the whole way once we get to the end, especially if you can take a moment to look back at where you started when you're in the middle of that journey, when you're in that learning space where things go up, things go down, right? You have wins, you have setbacks, you have all kinds of new discoveries. It's just a really amazing place to be. And I think so much of the time we wish it away. Even though it's kind of most of our life is being in the learning space in some way, shape, or form, unless we are change avoidant and are kind of growth avoidant, which, can happen, or we have seasons like that. But if we are an active person who is growing and changing and learning in life, we spend the majority of our life not knowing really what the heck we're doing. And it's a really beautiful, wonderful place to be if we let ourselves be there. It's also just a fact of life because most of the time we're not in arriving, right? We're not in that moment where we've figured everything out and we've gotten perfect at something. We're always in a process of growth. But really when we're in the thick of it, I think that's a really special place if we take that moment to look back and say, okay, there's where I started. Here's how far I've come. And I may still have goals along the way. I may still have things I want to accomplish. I may not feel like I'm all the way there, but I think there's some really just gold in that place. So also, you hear a lot from me, obviously, here. That goes without saying. But I also really want you to hear from others and people, especially in that process, in that middle. So today I am talking with Christina and Brooke, who did not want to use pseudonyms because, as Christina said, she is proud, and I am so glad for her that she's proud. They came to me both really frustrated, and I'm going to let them tell the story of where they started. But they are current clients, and they actually said to me, too, at the end of this interview, oh, hey, we'll come back at the end, too, because we're really interested to hear where this goes. They wanted to share with you the snapshot of where they are in this process and what they've learned so far. And I felt like that was just such a wonderful, generous offering that I wanted to give you a chance to really hear from them. They are rightly proud of all of the work that they've done and all the accomplishments they've had. And so we just had this conversation about how it's going. And I invited them to give you any advice that they had about if you're interested in doing this kind of work, how it goes, when you might want to think about starting, all that kind of stuff, and how to really think about it. So I hope you enjoy this conversation with two amazing human beings, Christina and Brooke. Oh, welcome. I am so glad to talk with you both. I'm so thankful that you're both here. So I wanted to just start with, if we can think back to before you started working with me. What were your biggest challenges and sort of what were you struggling with? What were you feeling at that time? Would either of you like to go first? Christina, you were the first person to come to me, so that might make sense.
Yeah. Hearing you interviewed on the podcast, and I've told you this before, when you said this process can be playful, and playful, it was so reassuring to me that the way I've been doing it. So what was hard and was the way I had been trying to figure all that has been not playful. It's really stressful. And a couple or a few years of obligation sex. I mean, probably my whole life, starting to feel the frustration around that, I think is what was especially, and not sense of, I didn't know it at the time, but not having a sense of me first, really feeling me first. So Yeah. Coming in, not knowing that there's something that wants to flow and be expressed, but not knowing how to do it, and the frustration of that. So those are the things that come to mind right now.
Absolutely. Can the two of you, either one of you, describe a little bit about sort of where you were with your relationship and your intimacy at that point?
I can describe it. There was tension and frustration and triggers that we were having trouble getting underneath. There were patterns that were kind of hard to see and to unravel, and then some kind of resentment or anger kind of building up.
Layers of kind of things that were distancing us, frustration, and just something not being able to be expressed.
Yeah,
that's good, but also the frustration between us, tension and distance that we didn't really know was there.
Yeah, it was
until we started to melt it.
It can be, underneath the patterns, like we didn't realize I was holding some frustration and anger.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. And I wonder, do you remember at that time? I know it's a little bit ago now, and sometimes when we've moved past something, it's almost hard to remember exactly how we felt at the time. But I'm wondering, at that point, how would you have described your situation? Because now you're describing it in terms of some, the feeling that frustration's not there as much anymore. You can see how frustrated you were and that distance. And I wonder, at the time, what would you have said your biggest obstacles were then?
Not really have sex or
just not wanting to have sex. Yeah. Or not really having sex either, right? Like you all didn't.
Sex.
Yeah. And my, and me, I was having conflicts about asking or initiating because of the kind of cycles that we could get into that I felt somewhat powerless to undo or find around.
Yeah. And at the point you came to me, I don't think you were actually very sexually active together at all, right?
No.
No.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
For a while.
It had been a while.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because that was part of, Christina, for you, your transition out of obligation sex too, was starting to put the brakes on, knowing that felt bad, putting the brakes on, but not knowing where to go, right? From there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And my putting the brakes on.
And then you putting the brakes on, not knowing how to ask.
Like, no.
I don't want to keep
We're not going to do that.
If all you're going to be is resentful afterwards.
And have that sense of obligation underneath it.
Yeah.
That's not.
Yeah.
That's not heading in the right direction.
That didn't feel good to you either, Brooke. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Oh, I'm so glad that you came to me. We've had so much fun. So thank you for explaining that. What do you feel has been the most valuable aspect of our work together for each of you? And as you've moved through this adventure together, Christina, maybe we can start with you. How is that sense of obligation? How's that resentment? How's the openness to having an erotic connection and the real sense of yourself?
Okay, so it's gradual. Like it's not, we're continuing our work, as you know, and it's, well, maybe it's not actually that slow compared to considering what I came in with, the distance and the layers between me and that aspect of myself. But safety, I feel like I can show up however I am. And then it's almost like this is a practice round for how I want to be physically with Brooke. It's like a pre-play, like, oh, that's right. I know how to relax and be in the company of someone who's touching me emotionally from Zoom, and helping me settle so that I can even talk about stuff, and start to find a voice of my own autonomy, like our little exercise of like you encouraging me to say, okay, I need the screen back a little further and still feel me while I'm in your presence. And I also feel like we have a consultant in you where if it's about, are vibrators okay, or what kind of dildo, or or should I see a sexological body worker, or like all of it. I feel like the breadth, like we a consultant, like what our challenges are, what my challenges are, what our challenges are, and I feel like you know this whole field of relationship and the anatomy of our genitals and everything. And so, yeah, I just feel like I have a private sex ed teacher on hand.
Yeah.
There are a few more other things, but I do well when I get to kind of pause for a second and slow down. So I'll do that now and then.
Wonderful. And look at that, you taking the moment to say, I'm going to pause and take my pace, which is one of the big wins we had, really, right? Was so hard for you early on to give yourself permission to have your own pace.
Mhm.
And you are a rock star at it now.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'll take that.
Yeah, it feels pretty good, right? I'm so excited for you. You just did it.
Thank you.
Yeah. Brooke, how about you? Is there anything that's really stood out as the biggest shift for you?
So you create a very big, safe space. And I have felt like with our exchanges and the exercises you give me, I've been led deeper into my inner self and bringing that forward, which has been my change. And so I think my biggest steps are slowing down my internal process and reactions and being there, which is something that I would get lost in before with us. And now it's my giving myself room to be there too, like slowing down, like you just were talking about, has allowed my window into myself to be bigger, to see what's happening. And I can bring that forward, and that's nurturing. That feeds our relationship in a good way.
Yeah, awesome. And I think that's such an important point, right? This is a really self-led process. This is you, right? We're working on helping you be more you. And I love that you're saying that has been helpful for you to really embrace yourself more and find yourself more. It's not about, my advice or telling you what to do, but like finding what is authentic to you and helping that come forward.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yes. You give good homework, role play, little tweaks of try this and all of that kind of opens it up. It's kind of like detangles the things that get in the way.
Yeah, exactly. That's such a good insight. Detangles the things that get in the way. Yeah. Because it was really just about clearing that out.
And it's not like with pressure. Like I think another thing that I've experienced, like, okay, I feel really deeply seen, like zeroed right in on. And if you have given homework or suggestions, you can see if I receive it as a pressured to do thing. And, you won't let me do that.
Yeah, we work on that.
That's kind of like obligation sex.
No obligation.
Exactly. Exactly. Helping you find more freedom.
Yeah.
And do you feel like you have more sense of freedom now, Christina, in yourself and your relationship and your connection with intimacy?
I do. I feel like it's growing. And I feel like it helped us kind of pull away from a lock kind of, I hate to that term codependence, but a way of relating to each other that's not very spacious. And it's almost like you've helped me orient to me in a way, separate from him. And it's been really freeing. I haven't really put words on that, but or not these words. So yeah, I feel more free, like it's like I can move around my days when we're together or when we're apart, feeling more free in me. And I feel like it's just, that, is what I'm imagining a lovely, sensual, sexual, consistently loving expression exchange is going to be like. So
yeah, you've already been getting tastes of that. And so that's what we're moving towards. kind of you're already implementing, so implementing consistently.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
You already know. I remember actually when we were working together in person the first time.
Mm-hmm.
And there was really early on when you were feeling so anxious about what would happen, how you would feel when Brooke would walk through the door at the end of the workday.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that sense of like, I can't take space for myself. I can't take a moment. I have to be completely oriented towards this other person was feeling overwhelmingly like an obligation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's good to look back, and I remember that too. Now it's almost like I feel like you've helped with worthiness, that I'm allowed to stay in me. It's almost my early programming said, when, a parent, dad came home from work, put that smile on and completely disassociate from any aspect of my body, let alone my pelvis. Like, so, to not be going into that automatic disconnect from myself and become the subservient, what to put the words on it. But now when you come in,
Mm-hmm.
it's like I feel more free to just stay in my own experience.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That big fear, it was, that's kind of a classic people pleasing
Mm-hmm.
experience, right? Is feeling like we have to completely oriented towards the other person. Yeah. So freedom from that. And because that wasn't what Brooke was asking for, right? But that was something that you had learned as a coping strategy early on in life, and made a lot of sense for you at that time in your childhood, and just kind of carried through in a way that wasn't serving you, was feeling really trapped. Yeah.
Immobilizing. Yeah.
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 Oh, that's a good word.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We've come a long way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel that.
I love that. Thank you. So I'm wondering, is there any particular story that comes to mind of, a specific example of an experience that you had that felt really beneficial, or a tangible result that felt really important that you want to mention for folks? It's okay if not. It can be hard to come up with specifics sometimes.
Not a specific story, but just how it kind of repeats what I've said before, which is just some of the exercises and the role play that we have done. It comes to me when I'm standing in the kitchen and we're static is in the air, or there's some challenge, and I'm trying to unwind that, create, and go, oh, I'm using this. I'm using it. Like, ding, thank you, Laura. And then I can sidestep some of the old patterns and feel like, and softness happens. So it's that's a pattern that has happened several times, but I don't have a specific story.
Yeah, wonderful. Like, you notice that you're using tools that we have practiced, and you're able to implement them, and you're able to notice that this is the moment to do it.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
I love that so much. That's one of the important things about what we do, right? So we don't just talk about it, we practice so that you can implement easier. Yeah. And that's what you're saying, right? You're implementing.
Exactly.
Like, you got to be on stage practicing with Laura, and then or you got to be he got to be in dress rehearsal with you, and then bring it.
Something we went through, and I'm like, yes, this is real time.
Totally. Yeah.
It's handy.
Yeah, you two have done that a lot with repair too, with relationship repair.
Yes,
we've really used that a lot.
Yeah. I think we did it. We actually used the step-by-step. We wrote on a Post-it note your repair process and did it summer, especially.
Yeah. So we were traveling for 2 months in a truck together with a camper. Lots of opportunities to trigger each other and practice repair. And we got that one down, like, we don't even need to look at the card anymore.
We're always looking forward to.
And then
now it's time to cop.
So then we and we will,
Yeah, we do use it.
create space
Yeah.
and then come back and do
Yeah.
a repair process. So
It's
And
really
we-
a superpower
very
that you've
healing.
developed.
Yeah. And then we have less reason to even do repair.
It's kind of unwound a lot of things that were patterns of resentment that have kind of faded.
Yeah.
I think you just really curating the touch practices, the different quadrants for us, and helping me see which quadrant is most triggering for me. And
yeah, so like the giving, the receiving, taking, allowing, all that stuff, which is a particular exercise we do, like that has been really important for you too.
Yeah. Discovering, from that exercise, I really discovered touching from a place from my enjoyment, taking pleasure in touch for my enjoyment, not to be of service to him. Mm-hmm. It's that internal locus of control is coming more and more here instead of that external. Yeah, to touch. Those exercises, breaking that down, and then you curating and saying, with that particular whole touch practice orientation, you helping like take it really slow with the one that was harder.
Yeah. Do you feel like that has fed in at all to some of your big successes in sexy times? Because y'all have had a lot of more sexy time, and it seems like it's been pretty fun. So I'm wondering, because I keep getting little reports that it's been fun. So I'm wondering, I want to say, like, one, congratulations on enjoying sexy time together again, really from an authentic place where you're both connected and you don't have to worry about there being resentment later.
Yeah.
So congratulations on that. And I'm wondering if it's felt like some of those practices have enabled that to be easier or more easeful.
For sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Totally. Yes. It's part of the path, the work to get there that we've been using to get back to sexy kind of sharing.
Yeah. And how's it feel about sort of being in your own desires, claiming your desires, allowing yourself to have some? I see this wonderful look on your face, Christina, and I'm so curious about it.
Well, I feel like I have had, probably as a result of whatever, I in some ways feel like, I've always been able to ask for what I want. I do, and I, create environments that I like and want, but my deeper wants, like my deeper desires, it's almost like staying focused on some superficial desires was a defense to like the deeper desire for this connection with myself first, and then sharing out with Brooke, with another. I'm still thawing to that. I'm still it still feels edgy. I think you've helped me a lot with just recognizing shame and then questioning it, and just being like, who do you want to have be the author of your life? Asking me that, or me asking myself that. And I feel like every time that I come up against that, there's just little meltings of the shame going away, and then the desire to show itself, hints, the deeper desire, not the superficial. I think I'll, see if I can make a massage appointment or go for a walk by myself, or those feel important at times, but they have felt superficial to what I really, really long for. And I think that desire is starting to show itself above the ground.
Yeah. And look,
as the wintertime shame melts.
And we've seen it in like all these beautiful moments of you connecting with yourself and your own eroticism. And then, embracing that sometimes workarounds for the shame, right? Like knowing the shame's going to be there. So embracing some playful workarounds where you can like say things like, I'm going to pretend this isn't happening, but
yes.
I love that so much when, you're like, all right, I'm going to go initiate sex with Brooke. and I'm just going to tell him that we're going to pretend it's not happening.
Yes, I made that happen.
Yeah.
It was brilliant.
Yeah. Yeah. That worked good. Yeah.
It enabled you to let yourself be naughtier.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. And the playfulness, back to what drew me to you. It's like, wow, I'm realizing as I'm sharing that I invented that game.
Mhm.
It's such a good game.
Yeah. So working around the workaround, the shame. Yeah, that's the coaching. Yeah, that's the coaching from you.
Mhm.
And your own ingenuity in knowing what you needed in order to make something happen for you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, beautiful. Is there anything that you just really want people to know if they are starting in the same place that you were? What would you want to tell them about this process or the journey or getting coaching?
That it takes some courage to want to bring yourself forward, but it's the safety that you create makes that easier, and that it takes courage to do your own stuff, like to claim the things that you bring that are, not maybe your best versions of yourself. And but as you actually look at that and with each other and honestly kind of work with it, your things change, and there's improvement, there's ease, there's space, there's softness where there was hardness, and not maybe not despondency, but there was kind of the forecast was not good, and now it's like, oh, the forecast is good. Mm-hmm. And it's an investment that's so worth it. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you.
And I would add, I would add that it takes courage even just to be listening to this sharing, just be opening up, because we live in such distorted, systems. We're raised in such messed up systems, and that this is just so normal to have needs around. It's like, let's go back to school. Let's go back to school, the kind of school we wanted to go to, with like a private coach who will accelerate things, because you don't have to go through first like 25 other people, and I also feel really hopeful about our future. Like, I'm 57, Brooke is 63. We've been married for 12 years, and I actually feel like we're embarking on the beginning of like a long extended honeymoon till the end, like good honeymoon.
Yeah. Oh, that's beautiful. That's so fun. I feel like that for you too. I'm so glad that you do, because I see it all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would say just listen to Laura's podcasts and follow what feels good. And if there's something that feels good about what we're sharing or your exchanges with Laura, invest, the time and the money that you might invest, going on an expensive trip where you long to feel the honeymoon energy, but you don't, because you have this tension in your body, your relationship with your sexuality, or in your relationship with whoever you're going with, or hopefully going to meet there, which you might not meet them there if you don't do this work first, So, I'd say, like, if you have to, tighten up on the budget for a year and invest here, it pays off later.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks. And thanks for acknowledging it is an investment. It's both time, it's an investment in energy, it's an investment in money, it's an investment in hope. We have to decide that we have enough hope to move forward. And I agree with you. I mean, obviously, everybody's going to make their own choice, but when you invest in yourself and your capacity for relationship, the returns are just so much more enormous than they are when you just invest in like a one-time thing or experience or stuff, but a lot of times in our culture, we don't really get marketed to invest in ourselves.
Right. And that's radical right there.
Yeah.
Invest in ourselves.
Yeah. It tends to come in shorter little segments, and it takes a little time to really open up to your own contribution to the process. Like it's easy sometimes to say, this is messed up and my wife or somebody needs to be different, but it takes time to look at what you bring to it.
Yeah.
And that's where the real shifting can happen as you own your own stuff.
Yeah, that's so important. And it's hard. That is hard. And that's what you're talking about courage too, right? It takes a lot of courage to own our own stuff, but the payoff is huge. And when we own some of the parts of us that we might not have embraced so much before, and we learn to embrace them and to share them and to get them loved on by somebody else too, that is like all of a sudden we don't have to be ashamed of them anymore.
Yeah, I think also I actually feel like my relationships with women friends and with the world of sexuality in general, like I feel like if Brooke wasn't around, I might take a female lover, or I feel like my whole way of seeing how humans are sexually is so much more open and not so narrow. I mean, we in that kind of, but just not so narrow. And there was something else I was going to say, lost it.
Well, let us know if it comes back.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, is there anything else that you feel like you really want to let people know or say about, just sort of like, when is the right time to work with me? Or would you recommend people to start? Anything you want to say more about your experience or about things you're really proud of that you've done in the last little while we've been together? That was a totally different question, so just take your pick of whatever sounds good.
I was thinking that the like, when is the time to reach out?
Yeah.
Question.
Yeah.
And I think that it would have been, I would have liked to have known that I could reach out earlier, knowing what was on the other side of reaching out. And I feel like when you pick on the anger, frustration, or resentment that happen like in a circle or a pattern, then there's no need to wait. Just waiting doesn't make it better, and trying to solve it on your own doesn't usually get you very far. Like it really is nice then to have an outside observer and some guidance, like, see how this is happening, and you go, yeah, wow, yeah, I couldn't have gotten where we are by reading books or working on it together.
That's really smart. When you're noticing the anger, frustration, resentment, to recognize that you probably are going to need help to get out of that. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you. Anything else to add, Christina?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think if you're engaging in sexy times and afterwards you don't feel closer, you feel like it's just a chore, immediately call Laura. Ghostbusters. And then I remembered what I was going to say earlier is investment. I actually feel like my relationship with all the people in my life is shifting because I'm connecting with I feel my sexuality is connected to my power.
Yeah.
And I chronically done messed up things with my power, just getting almost addicted to disempowering myself, cutting off from my desire and cutting off from my sexuality. And now I think I'm more fun to be around and I feel more confident actually in general. So if you're feeling not like you're not so much fun to be around or you're lacking confidence, call Laura. If you need your social relationships to be better, work on your sexuality with Laura.
It's surprising to a lot of us, right? This really surprised me when I started working on my sexuality because it was kind of the last frontier. I'd done so much coaching on everything else and I had avoided my sexuality for a long time. I was surprised at how much it transformed my other relationships and my confidence. in general, my ability to interact with other humans, right? Even my ability to just like be out in the world, in my job, and really big to feel, and then to feel like your relationship is grounding and nurturing as opposed to a stressful place.
Right.
Gives us a lot of confidence to navigate the world. And I think we need that, especially right now as the world is difficult.
Yeah.
I'm so excited for the two of you and your continued honeymoon together. Oh, yeah. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank
you.
you.
So I hope you enjoyed listening to that conversation half as much as I enjoyed having it. And I hope it was helpful for you. If at any point, now or in the future, you feel ready to talk about how this type of coaching work might support your own relationship and your own intimacy goals, including your relationship with yourself and your own sexuality, please feel free to reach out to me. Tell me what's going on for you, Laura@laurajurgens.com, or go ahead and book a free consultation. You can do that on my website. There's a little button that says book a consult. It's pretty easy. It's at laurajurgens.com. And I just want to invite you to reach out and not wait, because you actually could get on this path, right? And feel better and more connected even while you're doing the work to change your intimate relationship. So I want to give you that invitation for whenever you feel ready. All right, take care. See you next week. Hey, if you're curious about how you could have better sex and connections, go grab my free guide, Find Your Secret Turn-Ons. It's right on my website, www.laurajurgens.com, and the link is in the show notes. I'll see you here next time.